Hello students, welcome back to evolution classes. As I have told you during my last lecture, okay, I'll be talking about the cardiac cycle. Yesterday, or the day before yesterday, you will be getting that video of the cardiac cycle, full detailed analysis of the cardiac cycle. But after that, we need to understand the cardiac cycle which is given in your NCERT. Now, what is given in the cardiac cycle? What is the definition, and how can we decode this system? We need to understand that thing. Now, if you see this cardiac cycle, the definition which is given in your NCERT is it is complete contraction and the relaxation of atrium, ventricle, or the cardiac muscle, or duration of single heartbeat, that is 0.8 seconds. Now, we need to understand how can I decode these two statements given in the NCERT. Now, to understand this complete thing, we need to see this pie diagram over here. In this pie diagram, we can clearly see over here, I have written 0.1 second is required for the atrial systole. Now, we know systole and diastole is a consecutive unit. If a particular stratum, or if the atrium is under systole, then the ventricle is definitely will be on the diastole. If the ventricle is in the systole, the atrial is going to be into the diastole. So, this 0.1 second of atrial systole, that means this ventricle is under diastole during atrial systole. That means the same second is being taken, 0.1 second, right or wrong? Similarly, over here, we can see 0.3 second ventricular systole. Yesterday, on the last cardiac cycle, I've said that ventricular systole is takes more time than the duration is more than the atrial systole. So we can see over here, the ventricular systole is 0.3 seconds. Similarly, when the ventricular systole is taken 0.3 seconds, at that point of time, the atrial is under diastole during ventricular systole. That is, it is also 0.3 seconds. And over here I have written atrial ventricular diastole, means this is joint diastole we are talking about. This is 0.4 seconds. Now, why 0.4 seconds? You need to understand. Why this 0.4 seconds joint diastole? And what is joint diastole? You also need to understand this. Now, 0.4 second diastole of atria as well as the ventricle. See this over here. When the atria is under the systole, the ventricle was in the diastole. That is 0.1 second also. That is one. And when the ventricle is under the systole, the atria was in the diastole. That is 0.3 seconds. So 0.1 plus 0.3, it becomes how? Well, how much? 0.4. Did you got this point or not? Yeah. So this 0.4 second is this 0.1 second of ventricular diastole during atrial systole, and 0.3 seconds of atrial diastole during ventricular systole. It makes 0.4 second, which is called as joint diastole. Now come to the next part. So, is joint diastole is isovolumetric relaxation? No. Joint diastole is not isovolumetric relaxation. We can hear the second heart sound, that is called as a duh, during isovolumetric relaxation, right? Where both the atria as well as the ventricle relaxes, but no blood is coming in or no blood is going out when the ventricle is under the relaxed state. That is called the isovolumetric relaxation. That's why it is called as the isovolumetric relaxation. Now, when you talk about isovolumetric contraction, when you actually talk about the first heart sound, that is the la. Now, during that time, why it is called isovolumetric contraction? Because the ventricle is contracting at that point of time, but no blood is coming in or going out from the ventricle. That's why it is called isovolumetric contraction. The volume remains the same inside the ventricle, whether it is contracting or it is relaxing. So, based on that, we are calling it isovolumetric contraction or relaxation. During isovolumetric contraction, we hear the first heart sound, love, and during isovolumetric relaxation, we call it, we hear the second heart sound, that is the dub. But over here, why are you not saying joint diastole as isovolumetric relaxation? The reason is, isovolumetric relaxation precedes. After that, what happens? Rapid passive filling of the ventricle and slow passive filling of the ventricle. And these two phases, in these two phases, we call it as joint diastole. So that's why I've given the formula rapid passive ventricular filling and slow passive ventricular filling. These are the two events which is coming under the joint diastole, but definitely not isovolumetric relaxation. Remember that thing. After isovolumetric relaxation, the joint diastole start taking place. So basically, joint diastole is what? Rapid passive ventricular filling and slow passive ventricular filling. Clear? Okay. Now you come to the next part. What is in the next part? You see over here, I have said complete contraction and relaxation of the atrium and the ventricle or the cardiac muscle, that is going to be termed as a cardiac cycle. Now, when we talk about complete contraction and relaxation of both atrium and the ventricle, we need the time duration also. That time is being called upon as 0.8 second duration of single heartbeat. When during one heartbeat, atria goes to systole as well as diastole. Ventricle also goes under systole and the diastole. During all this process, it takes 0.8 seconds to complete one heartbeat. Now, how is it happening? You see that thing properly. This is the atrial concept, this is the atrial, this is the ventricle. Atrial systole, we know what? 0.1 second. Now, and atrial systole is 0.1 second. And atrial diastole is 0.7 seconds. How come this is 0.7 seconds, sir? Atrial diastole. Because I already told you in the last cardiac cycle lecture, okay, the atrial diastole is the longest event in the cardiac cycle. So this 0.7 second, how to decode it? See this, during ventricular systole of 0.3 second, atria was in the diastole, that makes 0.3 seconds also. And during joint diastole, atria was diastoling, that means atria was relaxing, that is 0.4 seconds. So 0.4 second plus 0.3 second gives you 0.7 seconds. Understood or not? Yeah. Now, in the ventricular systole, we all know in the ventricular systole is 0.3 seconds. Alright. Now, in the ventricle, if I am saying in the ventricle how much diastolic event is taking place and why are you writing 0.5 seconds over here, sir? Because you see again, how does the 0.5 second comes? During joint diastole, the ventricle was also in the diastole, that gives you 0.4 seconds. And during atrial systole, 0.1 second was the duration of atrial systole. That means ventricular diastole during atrial systole was also 0.1 seconds. So 0.4 plus 0.1, it gives you 0.5. Now, if you summate this equation, if you go for the summation of this, atrial systole is 0.1, atrial diastole is 0.7. That gives you how many seconds? 0.8 seconds. And also ventricular systole is 0.3 seconds, ventricular diastole is 0.5 seconds. That is also giving you 0.8 seconds. So now you come to the definition, complete contraction and relaxation of both the atrium and the ventricle. See, atrial complete contraction and relaxation, 0.8 seconds. Ventricle complete systole and diastole, contraction and relaxation, 0.8 seconds. That gives you the cardiac cycle timing, and that gives you the proper coding of this diagram, which is given in your NCERT. Hope you have understood this general decoding of the thing. Sometimes you may falter. Okay, how are you enumerating this 0.7 seconds, 0.5 seconds? How are you enumerating? Why you are not saying joint diastole as isovolumetric relaxation? Why you are not saying that? So this is the thing which is going to be there in your NCERT diagram. This is a proper decoding of it. I will decode the next diagram, same diagram I will be using, but I will tell you what are the events and from where it starts, where it ends and what happens within the same diagram itself. So hope you have understood this lecture. This is very basic lecture, but I hope a lot of doubt which has already crept into your mind have been cleared from this generalized decoding of the cardiac cycle. Thank you. Keep working hard, keep grinding. And hopefully you are liking the lectures also. Yeah. So I'll come back with the next lecture again with the concept 3 of the cardiac cycle and what are the events which is taking place and pinpoint accuracy into this diagram. Thank you.